From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Keeping a tradition in pork going.
But at the end of the day, pig farmers are doing what's best for their pigs, for their environment, and their families and communities.
Meet a young farmer who's building his balance sheet with help from thousands of hogs. Some possible hopeful signs in a new ag economy barometer.
The rise in the index this month was really attributable to an improvement in the Future Expectation Index.
As the world's largest ag equipment maker announces a new round of layoffs. An update right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when experience meets expertise. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. A bellwether in the ag equipment industry is announcing a new round of layoffs. Bloomberg reporting John Deere will cut an undisclosed number of employees from its global production and salaried workforce. Bloomberg citing a letter that was sent to employees at the end of last week. The Des Moines Register reporting the company has also authorized 103 early retirements for workers at a factory in Ottumwa. It says Deere also cut another 16 jobs at the factory on June 1st, but it says Deere will cut more positions later this year, eliminating what the company says is, quote, overlap and redundancy by the end of July. It reports, according to the Iowa Workforce Development, Deere had eliminated at least 650 jobs across Iowa before last weekend. Now, late last month, we told you the ag equipment maker would lay off 190 workers at its Waterloo, Iowa facility. It comes after an earlier layoff of 308 workers in April. The company is predicting a 20 to 25% drop in large ag equipment sales due to lower commodity prices, which is impacting farm incomes. But the layoffs aren't just hitting John Deere. New Columbia fruit packer is announcing it's closing its plant in Yakima, Washington, putting 200 people there out of work. The CEO confirming to local media the plant will close in August. He says it's due to changing market trends in the apple industry. It plans to centralize all of its operations into one plant in East Wenatchee. And while the new ag economy barometer shows some improvement, there is still concern by farmers about making large investments right now. The Purdue University CME Group survey coming in with a reading of 108 in May. That's a 9-point increase from April. The index of future expectations climbed 11 points and current conditions index increased by 6. Now the Farm Capital Investment Index, that's up 4 points from its all-time low it hit back in April. But despite the increase, the survey revealed 77% of farmers they asked believe it is a bad time to make large investments, citing higher interest rates and elevated prices for farm machinery and new construction as the reasons why. However, the rise in crop prices played a role in boosting farmer sentiment this month.
When we ask producers again what their biggest concerns are for the upcoming year, they continue to point to high input cost as their number one concern, followed by lower output prices, and finally by interest rates as a big concern going forward.
Interest in developing carbon capture and storage projects is rising among ethanol plants, partly thanks to possible tax credits. This month's survey asked farmers about this. 7% reported being approached about projects like this, with payment rates per acre ranging from under $26 to over $50. Meanwhile, planting appears to be heading to the finish line. USDA releasing its latest crop progress numbers. As of June 2nd, 91% of the corn crop is now in the ground. That's 2% ahead of average. And we have our first corn condition ratings of the season, with 75% of the crop rated good to excellent. That's 11% ahead of where we were this time last year. Now, checking out soybeans, still a ways to go. 78% of that crop now platted, and that's 5% ahead of the 5-year average. But farmers in the West, still with planting to do, are having to contend with extremely hot temperatures as a heat dome scorches parts of the U.S., with some areas setting new records. High temps also mean higher air conditioning costs. A new report predicts a hotter summer will force Americans to pay about a third more for energy this June through September than it did back in 2019. Now it averages out to about $200 more. And all that heat is expected to push further north and east. Meteorologist Lauren Moore joins us with an update.
Yeah, that heat is going to make its way across parts of the Rockies and most of the West. Honestly, we're seeing that heat dome. It's kind of sitting right just near the Denver area, and it's pulling in a lot of that warm, more humid air across the West, but it's also bringing in cooler, drier air in toward parts of the central and eastern parts of the country. Now, this will help this area in blue cool down a little bit cooler from around normal for this time of year as we get into our second week of our June. So keep it in mind, the heat dome is not making everything hot. It's just making a good portion of the nation pretty hot. So there's that heat dome right there for our Wednesday. This is expected to expand, and any place inside this heat dome is going to have a very difficult time getting any kind of weather going other than hot and clear weather. A very dominant high pressure going to be expected over this next couple of days. Now we could see some lows trying to push their way across parts of the Great Lakes on our work week and into our weekend. So we're watching that pretty closely, but again, not expecting severe weather by any means across most of the nation. As we get into our weekend, could start seeing a couple more showers near that high pressure. And take a look at this right here. It's a spectacular double rainbow captured on camera by Leon Kaufman over in Montana. The cow in the foreground there, the creek along with all those spectacular pine trees. It's a scenic place to take that perfect picture. I'll have more on that forecast coming up.
Something farmers on Hawaii's Big Island are watching right now, the Kilauea volcano in the state's Volcanoes National Park began a new eruption early Monday morning. You can see a cloud of smoke hovering over the area, and while it's producing volcanic ash, the biggest threat is the high level of volcanic gas. The gas creates a visible haze known as fog, which can be dangerous to humans and animals and also damage crops. At last report, scientists had said the eruption had paused. Farmers are once again taking to the streets in protest ahead of the four-day European Union election. Now, some political groups getting farmers on their side throughout the 27-nation bloc in the months leading up to the polls. They claim farmers have become the victims of an overbearing EU and environmentalists that failed to take their considerations into account. Political experts say the farmers could have a real impact on the outcome of the election, with so-called populist and hard-right parties expected to surge. Also in ag news from around the world, you're looking at the most expensive cow ever sold at auction. Now that's according to Guinness World Records. Meet Viatina 19 FIV Mara Movies. She weighs more than 2,400 pounds and is twice as heavy as an average adult in her Nealor breed, which is raised for meat. The Brazilian cow is worth over $4 million. Her owners have put up billboards praising her size and inviting ranchers, locals, and busloads of veterinary students to come see the super cow. She represents Brazil's cattle ambitions to raise meteor cows. Now, vets in the area say the cow's eye-popping price stems from how quickly she put on vast amounts of muscle, her fertility, and how often she has passed those characteristics to her offspring. Now, those eager to find out pay around $250,000 for an opportunity to collect her eggs. Well, it's pork week here at Farm Journal, but hogs saw some losses on Tuesday during the trading day. We'll take a look at the markets coming up next. And pork producing for the next generation, how this farmer found his calling.
Introducing Unscripted with Ty Morgan and Clinton Griffiths. Real, raw, and entertaining. A new episode is available every Friday on Farm Journal's YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.
Red continued to mostly cover the trading board on Tuesday. AgDay's Michelle Rook has more in markets now.
Another down day in the grains on Tuesday. Vince Boddicker, Farmers Trading Company, is back with us. Okay, Vince, let's talk about corn and soybeans. We kind of continue to see pressure there. And is that market basically turned to a rain makes grain mentality, or what's pressuring the market?
That's what it feels like. There's really nothing threatening at this point, especially when we got through Monday's report and you were looking at corn 91% planted and beans at 78. So you were 5% ahead, and the fourth largest or fourth best initial rating on corn didn't help. I thought corn held together fairly well and what they could have done in there. But yes, last week, late in the week, you wondered if it wasn't end of the month selling, but after the higher start on Monday and we couldn't follow through on Tuesday. You got to think there's other factions that really don't care if they're long or not.
Also in the beans, is it just supply, or are we also maybe trading the lack of demand there?
Corn demand has been pretty good, but I think a lack of demand in beans very much so. And it is that time of year where it's slow. But I think we're at the slowest pace in 19 or 20 years for forward booking new crop beans out of the U.S. China's basically absent from that market. And I think people are looking at that also saying we've got acres out of here and we're going to switch more to beans. We had more beans anyway. Do we switch more? And then we put on top of that the lack of demand. And why should we go higher?
We'd had a tough day on Tuesday. Is the Russian weather story over, or is this harvest pressure?
I think the Russian story is over until you get into harvest and see what that crop is. You took a lot off of it. And then all of a sudden you saw, I think it was late Friday or yesterday, you did see some other organizations come out and they weren't quite as low as some previous ones were. But harvest, definitely, you're sitting there ahead of schedule on harvest in both Oklahoma, Texas. We are yields from what you picked up, early yields above trend line. Some of the guys we listened to earlier today were thinking that next week's WASDE report could see that wheat carry out over 800 million bushels. And that's really not what the trade needs to hear.
Thanks so much. Vince Boddicker with Farmers Trading Company. We'll have more AgDay coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
Welcome back to AgDay. We are still looking at a very warm next couple of days. That high pressure, the heat dome, pushing its way into most of the west and even southern parts of the country. So as we go through our afternoon, you can see those temperatures very warm across parts of Texas, the Mojave Desert, even stretching in toward parts of California, Nevada, Utah, and Colorado. Look at Denver, 92 degrees. It's going to be a warm day in the Mile High City. Of course, Salt Lake also going to be getting near 90 degrees, and even those 80s getting pretty high. Minneapolis and near the icebox of America, not icy anymore. High is going to be 78 degrees. Chicago 81. Now, as we get into our overnight, we will be watching the temperatures cool down, and even some places not even escaping the 70s or 80s. But as we get into tomorrow, oh man, look at that. Look at Oklahoma, parts of northern Texas, Arkansas, even stretching in toward, again, parts of Salt Lake City now up toward the mid 90s, and even Jacksonville and Miami reaching for 100 degrees. Yeah, that heat dome means business, and it is going to be warm this next couple of days. Now, here's the good thing. A lot of us that have been seeing quite a bit of that rainfall, not going to see much more of it. I'm talking about parts in the east. Now, we will see a little bit for the next 24 hours, but shouldn't see much more as we get into our extended forecast. We could see a handful of showers as we get into parts of our late week, and that actually is places that do need to see that rain. Parts of western Kansas, parts of New Mexico, which the entire state has really not seen a whole lot of rain in the past several weeks, almost months, but definitely could see a little bit of that rainfall there, helping some of those drought conditions across parts of the western and central plains. So luckily that's severe risk because of the giant heat dome. We're not really seeing much of a severe risk we get into tomorrow. There could be a handful of scattered thunderstorms trying to get on the stronger side across parts of our Wednesday, and even again parts across southern Texas and Louisiana, but these risks are not very high at all. And as we get into tomorrow, that risk completely falls off the face of the planet. We're going to be looking much better for that dangerous weather, but again, still keep in mind it's going to be hot in some places where that heat dome is really settled in, and it's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Now, it will be eventually fading away, but we got about a whole week before that's going to happen. So there's that heat dome right there. It's going to stick around for that Thursday, Friday. Now, we could see again more of this cool air getting shot down on the east side of this high pressure here, but anywhere in this high pressure is going to be sticking with some very warm and humid conditions. But as we get into our weekend, that high pressure finally starts fading. We could start cooling down as we get into our next work week. But again, that's a whole week away. We're looking at very warm temperatures over the next week or so. Arcto, Idaho, looking at sunny conditions, high 84 degrees. It's going to be a nice one there. Emporia, Kansas, a little more humid here, high 88 degrees. And finally, Benton, Arkansas, could see a handful of thunderstorms, but highs on the mid-80s.
Still ahead, celebrating Pork Week with the next generation. We'll see how raising pigs helped open the door for this young farmer next. It's Pork Week here at Farm Journal, and the U.S. pork industry has seen its share of consolidation in the past several years. However, in South Dakota, they continue to grow production by bringing in younger producers. AgDay's Michelle Rook talked to a next-generation pork producer that's helping to buck the trend as a contract grower.
Adam Krause is a fourth-generation pork producer from Clear Lake, and he says without pork production, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to come back here to the farm. Krause raises 25,000 head of pigs annually in this nursery barn he built in 2016 after graduating from SDSU.
And here I own the barn, but somebody else owns the pigs, and I just get paid to take care of them. So I'll get them at 14 pounds and grow them to 60 pounds. After that, kind of the next phase of our operation with working with my dad, he's got some finisher barns. So in that particular barn, that will take those pigs from 60 pounds to their market weight where they will go to their harvest facility.
He says being a contract grower is opening a door to farming once closed for many young people due to financial barriers, including the high cost of land.
It would have been really difficult for me to come back to the farm if I wouldn't have built this barn right away. It was a great opportunity for me to be my own boss for part of the day and then come back and be a part of something bigger, as in my home operation as well.
As a next-gen producer, this is also providing an avenue to buy into his family pork and grain operation.
It's a great opportunity for a young person like me to gain some equity, put in some sweat equity, and maybe start to transition back to the family farm. So took a little bit of that load of not only financially, but as far as building my own balance sheet or being able to buy in or buy some equipment and what that all looks like. I maybe could have done it, maybe not. Every farm is different, but at the end of the day, I'm definitely happy I did.
Krause says this type of business arrangement is part of the reason South Dakota has achieved double-digit growth in pork production, but he also gives credit to the business-friendly environment.
Over the last 5 to 10 to 20 years, call it, there's been a lot of sow farms. It's a great place to put up a sow farm because it's not a lot of pig pressure, but here in South Dakota, we've certainly got a lot of corn and soybean meal available.
And as the president of the South Dakota Pork Producers Council, Krause takes pride in the fact this growth is being done responsibly.
But at the end of the day, pig farmers are doing what's best for their pigs, for their environment, and their families and communities. And I think they all do a very good job with integrity doing that.
I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Well, high heat and fighting salt water are constant threats for farmers in Louisiana. See what researchers are doing to try and combat problems with new rice varieties in the country. Developing rice varieties that are heat and saltwater tolerant and can withstand disease and insect pests is a primary goal of something called the Crisp Rice Project. LSU Ag Center correspondent Craig Gautreaux gives us some insight.
Its full name is Climate Resilient Innovations for Sustainable Production of Rice. Its nickname is the acronym CRISP Rice, and the project has a goal of enhancing the profitability and sustainability of rice production in the southern U.S. through a variety of methods.
Number one, developing varieties that will allow us to deal with some of these weather-related, climate-related challenges, and also production practices that will help us deal with these challenges that we anticipate facing.
Stout is an entomologist, and he recognizes that rising temperatures can lead to new pest problems.
Changes in temperature and in warming temperatures can lead to range expansions for insects, and so insects that we don't have problems with right now, we may have problems with in the future, and one prominent example of that would be a pest called the rice delphacid.
The project is funded by a USDA grant and takes a multidisciplinary approach. Last year's severe drought kept some surface water sources from being used for rice and crawfish production.
We are having an extreme saltwater intrusion where some of the PPT levels are increasing where you can't even grow rice. So we're trying to breed different varieties of rice that can withstand that.
For much of the world, rice is a staple food, as it is in many Louisiana dishes.
It has become our culture to eat rice. All of the food that we cook has rice in it, from etouffee, jambalaya to gumbo. We are always using rice.
A strong, sustainable rice crop would also help with crawfish production because of the similar environments each is raised in. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Ocho reporting.
All right, thanks, Craig, and that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.